I'm ready when y'all are.
Okay,
Going live. And maybe while we get started, this thing will connect. I don't know. Oh, it's loading. All right, so this week we're covering, is it lesson 5? It was on culture, is what. Yeah, no, that's great. And in fact, next week we'll probably do 6 and 7 together. But this week I wanted to talk about culture because he made some good points. And if you watch the video, he talked about this circle. What do you call it? The invitation circle. Okay, good. Let me bring it up. Not that one. We're getting ahead of ourselves. This one. And so in this circle, what he's done is he's divided up like everybody, say in this community, okay, Bethel or Rocky Mount or think Meriwether County. This inside circle here is our church. So you are here, right? We're trying to reach people out here. You have friends. Now, because of the nature of, you're a Christian and whatever, most of your friends are probably other Christians, right? And maybe they're in a church, or maybe they're in this joining circle. These are people that are aware of Christianity, are friendly towards Christianity, but maybe not part of a church or not have a real committed relationship with Christ, right? Here. Now the problem is, let's say you know 100 people. You probably know more, but let's say 100 people to keep the numbers round. Of those 100 people that you know, some are close friends, some are acquaintances, right? Some you have deep committed relationships with, some you don't. The demographics of society have shifted to where, Christianity is not very important. So of those 100 people, you may only have 20 in there that are, friendly towards Christianity. Most of them are not really against Christianity, but it's not important to them. They don't care about it, okay? And then of those 20, right, maybe only 2 or 3 are looking, or you have a committed or a deep enough relationship to where when you invite them, they would actually accept. And so what Gary's point is that when we're focusing on this joining circle, like when we say, invite your friends to this cookout, this homecoming, this whatever, we naturally turn our attention to like these 3 or 4 friends that we may have that actually have a chance of saying yes. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Now, Gary has a point. We've reduced our population size by 97%. And no wonder the church is having a problem getting people in here, because we're not reaching them where they're at. And so I'm going to cancel this, move to the next photo here. He comes up with, or he says this, and I like this. I took a screenshot. If our aim extends only to the inviting joining circle, we inadvertently create our own mission obstacle. We're limiting ourselves. We're limiting ourselves. And so the whole point of this is to have this process. And this process takes time. And this is everything that we've talked about to this point is right now, currently, the way we do it is we just got to go to my markup. We start here and invite forward. Like this is what we're trained to do, right? Christianity, like you've been in church for 20 years, right? Go and invite people. Go and invite people. Go and invite people, right? But we're skipping some steps. And so when you invite people that you don't really know, they're like, maybe some people will say yes because they have a natural interest to it, but most people are like, I don't know you, and I'm washing my hair that day, right? You're not important because you don't have that relationship. The whole point of this is we need to start here, building relationships. The culture in which we live in is a relational-based culture. If you got a phone call from a guy saying, hey, if you invest, $1,000 with me, I can double your money, you'd be like, yeah, right? The scam artist, right? And yet we're doing the same thing. We're saying, hey, if you come to church, right, you can heal your life. It's kind of, you're like, where's the scam, right? That's what people are looking for. Oh, you want my money. Right? That's where it comes back to. Because they don't have a relationship. Now, if your trusted financial advisor who you've been investing for 20 years calls you and say, hey, David, I got this great opportunity, just came across. I thought of you. If you give me $1,000, probably, double your money, at least, 50%. That would be a different conversation, right? Because you have a relationship. And that's what Gary's, the whole point of this whole series is boiled down to this. Relationship first. Relationship first. That is the key. Now, as far as, the video is very lightweight this week, I thought, right? You get the point, right? Do the relationship first, then you get the interest. I do want to, there was an interesting stat. If you read the book, which doesn't 100% match with the video, he goes off on the different topics in the book, but the same topic, Tom Reiner, which is from it's a Christian organization, and the name leaves me at the top right now. He published a study in 2008. It was like statistics that surprise or something, surprising statistics about the church. And he said that 73% of people in church that were invited to church came because of a personal relationship with Christ, or with the person that invited them. And on the flip side, most people that are against church, whatever, don't have a relationship with somebody in the church. On the flip side of that. I was a little surprised. Now, this is 2008, so, a lot has changed, and I don't want to even calculate that. That's too much. 14 years. So a lot has changed. Now, I thought that it would be fun this morning because you guys get this, right? I don't have to beat you over the head with it. Relationships first. You've been thinking about this for 6 weeks now, right? We've been thinking about this. I'm going to go back. Let's look at this picture again. The greater community. We are here, right? We know where we are. Now, the best way, I thought it'd be fun to think about an actual, let's call it a case study, if you will. Something that could really start putting the rubber to the road here. We have a great asset coming online. That's something that the rest of this community doesn't have, as far as I know. We've got a huge activity center right here, right? It'll be online in probably a couple months. I don't know. As soon as Kenny gets back from vacation, we'll have it finished up. Yet we know that if we keep doing the status quo, nothing will change, right? Now, I bring it up to you. This is where the rubber hits the road. Let's think about this. What can we do, keeping in mind that we want to build relationships, we want to, get people in, ultimately to come to know Christ, and then once they know Christ, to become, committed disciples of Christ. what are some of the things that we can do using this asset or that involve this asset that might be able to reach out to these people in the greater community that aren't inside our joining circle? Competition and events. Okay. Okay. It's cool. So you're thinking something like sports?
Yeah, like maybe have another church have a competition in a basketball game or something like that. That's a big room out there.
So, okay.
You know, give them trophies or give them, not trophies, but something homemade, like
Okay.
a plaque or whatever.
Okay. And we've seen examples of this in other places. Our kids played soccer up at Northside. That seems to be, and it goes well, although we can talk about some of the issues I've seen with it.
Or kids cook off,
Kids cook off.
or kids cook something.
Hey, man, like Top Chef Junior or something.
I know it, yeah.
Man, there's some really talented kids. I saw this kid cook up a octopus, and I was like, wow. I wouldn't have no idea where to start.
Best presentation.
Okay, okay. So we're getting outside the box. We're trying to target people that are. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's take this example, right? Because we want to. I'm using this as a platform to kind of think about this. How would we start that, knowing that, or how would we use, say, a basketball or cook-off to build relationships? Because we've seen, we invite people one time. If they do show up, we don't see them again, right? And we've seen it. We had the Easter egg hunt out here was great. We had tons of kids that are not even involved in our families or extended families, and yet we haven't seen them again. Now, I think I will justify my thoughts based on this class is that we don't have a relationship with them. They have no ties here, so what can we do? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and we've seen that. Kenny's actually done a bus ministry very similar to that, and the idea is, but you do have that problem, is that you start to become this glorified babysitter, right? And why would you say that is? I would suggest it's because we don't have really good relationships with these kids or their parents. Well, every church is having the same problem. And I can tell you the big churches have the same problem. I know people at Crossroads, you're always looking for volunteers.
You're always going to find a member being at attending their church, but maybe they'd like to try another church, but they don't know where to go.
Well, and that.
And see, I'm not saying we're stealing their kids or their parents, but it's a competition.
Well, and the term I've heard for that is sheep swapping,
Yeah.
which I think is probably the best term I've heard for it, sheep swapping.
I mean, your movies for the kids are just, that's wonderful. And you invite the adults.
Yeah. And those are things like we're starting the conversation. You could think of those as like icebreakers, right? We're breaking the ice. This is really a come see us without any obligation. Like 2 hours, no obligation trial, right? But really what we want to do is we want to meet people, show them the love of Christ, whether they're an adult or a child, right? show them the benefits of Christ, and have them make a decision. Like, this is super important, right? We believe, us here, this is the most important decision you can make, is to follow Christ. And if you can dedicate your life to Christ early, you can avoid some of the heartache, right? But even if you've had heartache, right, Christ will accept you and make you whole, right?
I'd like to see more single parents participating, because they don't have as many things that hold them back. They're looking for things to do with their children, but they don't have a relationship with other people. Because when you're single, nobody wants nothing to do with you.
Okay. Now that's something I hadn't really thought of. So let's take that idea, single parents. Like, we're starting to get into the strategy some. We want to specifically target single parents. And we have this activity center, and, let's say we pull off the capabilities to run like a small basketball league. Okay, now what? How do we find these single parents? Right? What are some challenges?
I guess through the school system. You'll have to get a hold of the school system.
Well, yeah, look, the kids got to be interested. Although, parents do have some pull, right? Parents, hey, come along, little Johnny, you need to get some energy out. Which is
Since
fun.
we're talking
Yeah.
single parents, there's programs for divorced people, divorce care. There's plans for bereavement, if you've lost a spouse. There are different classes like that that you can teach the parents. Well, they're going to need to bring their children while they go to their little class.
Mm-hmm. So that's another good idea. So maybe we have something for the children as a place for the children to be, while adults do something, bereavement or whatever like that. That's also a good idea. Now, what are some of the challenges as we're thinking about, these relationships? Like, obviously we don't know these people yet. We haven't contacted them. We don't have a list, right? What are some of the challenges that single parents would face? Getting people here. Like,
Well, we
I can think of a
also
couple.
go pick them up in our bus.
Okay, let's go pick them up in our
Let's go
bus.
get 'em. Instead of them coming to us, we go to them.
Okay, so we could take our bus and, provided they sign some waiver,
Have a little
right?
schedule
Or a
that we
sign-up
can
sheet,
do.
right? That way everybody's kosher, not just some strange bus showing up at your house, right?
We're not utilizing our bus to the community yet.
Well, yeah, I agree. We'll get there.
Last week, one of my grandchildren at the house, they got on this program, and I had never turned on that channel and watched it before in my life. They
Mhm.
had children, 10 years old, 12 years old, 13-year-old, baby, cooking, coming up with their own thing, They
Yeah.
were doing it,
Makes them feel good.
and they were into it. They wanted to, they were gonna go grab a bowl right then and see what they could put up,
Yeah.
But then there's other factors in there, people are holding them back.
And I think cooking,
Oh, we can't do that. You're not gonna get in here and make a mess. You're not gonna do that.
They have
so you can see,
They have videos of children cooking on TV.
hey, Leanna,
It'd be nice to show the young people a video once in a while of cooking.
I mean, we could try it. I mean, honestly, how expensive is a bag of flour and some eggs, right? I can bring in my mixer. You can go to town, right? I don't care. And we'll just sweep it up, vacuum it up. I don't care, right? It washes off.
But the
There's a
children
lot worse things
themselves
to do.
on the show were happy with themselves.
Mm-hmm. So it builds up some self-confidence.
It's like I
So-
was telling you guys when we start cleaning up around here now, bring the children here. Us old people getting old, we can't bend over and pick up.
I know y'all are getting old.
I
It's
know.
hard to get y'all
We
doing
can't
anything.
bend over and pick up like we go all day. These kids can reach down and get closer to it and pick up paper.
Hey, that's what I do.
I've had 2-year-old kids picking up trash for me, just. hey,
That's why I had kids, so I didn't have to mow my yard.
You know, the ones that are responsible.
I mean, I love them too,
The
but
responsible children that are being raised by their great-grandmother or grandmother, those are the children that cater to the older people,
mm-hmm.
not the young parents, the older.
Okay, so in this discussion, and we're kind of going off the rails a little bit, but we can think of some of the challenges, right? We can see some of the challenges from the church's side. We've got people that don't want to mess up the nice, shiny new building, right? That's a challenge to overcome, right? We don't want to invite those people here and stick around for the sermon, right, on that. But also on the flip side, you've got very busy single parents who, I don't know, but I can imagine a scenario where, we start at, say, 6. They get home at 5, right? Little Johnny still hasn't done his homework. Still got to cook dinner. You don't want to send him out to dinner or without dinner. He's not going to get back till 7:38. Then what, right? There's some challenges there, and you haven't seen your child. What are some ways that we can alleviate some of those things? Now, you suggested we could use the bus to go pick them up, so we alleviate that from the parent, right? You don't worry about it. Like, we'll pick them up. Still got the food issue. So churches have done, well, we'll have, a little dinner before. Now, that takes away the problem from the parent, adds that problem to us, because now we got to have volunteers to do that, and God help us if little Johnny gets sick because something wasn't cooked right. So you kind of see
Well, once they sign up.
the battle here, right? Now, let me bring up this point. Let's say we use the bus. All right, we're committed to this. We're going to use the bus. We're going to bring out these kids. How do we develop a relationship with those parents? Because really, we're not seeing them.
Well, you send them little notes for the kids to give to their parents, and you give them praise. Let them know how you feel about their children. Maybe that will bring them, something to let the parents, communicate with the parents more,
Okay, so communicate as much as you can.
with the parents.
But really, we'd like to, really get to know them,
Yeah.
right? And communication one way, really what we want is like a two-way communication, right? I mean, that's the goal.
I mean, you can do index cards and you can put little surveys. Let the parents check.
Mhm.
Then we get to know a little bit about what the parents want.
So how many people have gotten a survey, a free survey, that had no impact on you and you just threw it away?
Well,
I'm not trying to shoot you down, Marie, right?
Well,
But
I know, but I had one come in yesterday, and it was something about nature and trees and all that. That thing was this long, I just threw it away.
yeah, right? And it,
You want something
actually,
simple.
from a statistical standpoint, we learned that it's actually self-selecting. The people that will fill out those surveys will typically fill it out with a higher score than those who just throw it away. So you're actually biasing your own opinion.
Yeah, true.
It's one thing that happened here, you see a lot of the diversity, you see different, nationalities, life forms, everything now, but kind of, there's not that many whites going into the black churches, so now they're looking at being racist if the blacks don't come into the white churches.
Okay.
So, we had a problem with that a long time ago here, somebody in different faith. Let's say we was at a funeral or something, coming to somebody's funeral, they didn't want to say it here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and this church started like that. This church was black, white, no. They had a balcony in the very old church, they said it was like, black that sit kind of a balcony,
Mhm.
the white sit down to the people. Well, then they broke off up here, inside the church, when we passed by, got started, they started here on the church.
Mm-hmm.
Broke away from us. We have blacks buried in the cemetery over here on this side of the cemetery.
Okay.
But see, it started out as a community type deal. It wasn't like, bam, this one that way, that one that way.
Mhm.
So if you start going around, start picking people up and doing something, you'll have that little kid right there. And like I said, the biggest problem we had right here in this church was, we don't want that child here. We don't want that child here. We don't want this, that.
Yes.
And that child may not have had, whatever, the lifestyle was, but they couldn't, the community couldn't get together and bring them out of there. They
So-
would leave them idle. So
I agree with that, right? And it's tough to talk about, but it's
Tough
real.
thing to get-
It
get
is real.
across.
It is real, right?
Society has changed so much.
I mean, let's think about this, right? We're all white,
Right,
right?
so.
We live in a white.
And
when you were
most of our
God,
friends
you
are
were
white.
God's children, you
And,
were everybody.
but take a survey, let's go out 5 miles. 5 mile, like we start here, we look at every person within a 5 mile radius of this church. What do the demographics look like? I guarantee you they're not all white, right? And so that's another thing to think about, racial differences. Why would a black person come here and feel out of place, honestly, right?
They wouldn't if we had more.
I mean, we need to be more obviously we welcome everybody, right? But there are certain challenges, just like we talked about challenges for single parents, there are challenges for blacks, right, to come to this church. There are challenges for women, there are challenges for men, and what I'm trying to hammer home is we need to think about these things, and we need to have a strategy, like, for all these different populations. And it's work. It is work.
Yes, it is.
But it's something we can do.
Dedication is what it is.
It's something we can do. But it's going to take some dedication, and it's more than let's design a flyer and mail it out.
Right.
It's more than that. That is.
Our whole society, you're not watching, I'm not gonna watch it a lot. I see young boys right now that will not get off the cell phone, quit playing games, and I see little girls going out riding four-wheelers and want to get a fishing pole and go fishing, and will play softball, and these little boys, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. Why? What
And-
is the difference in the gender? And the boys usually couldn't sit still.
We need to think about those
And
things.
what's happening?
It's something we need to think about.
There's a lot of it.
David?
Something that I thought about a minute ago, when you was talking about the movie night, that we've done a few of, if we could combine something between having some kind of food, whether it be potluck, hot dogs, or whatever, and have a community movie night, and like, do it like every week or every other week, and just so everybody knows, it's Friday night, they got a movie over at Bethel, you know, let's go over there.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds
And
good.
Cause you gotta have consistency.
Consistency is
And
something.
when the word gets around, every Friday night, they got a movie and something to eat over there at Bethel.
Mhm.
Whether it be potluck or whatever it be,
For the
you know,
kids too.
and for the kids, and like the movie you've had, you know, it's good for the kids and adults,
Yeah.
you know.
And we've tried. I mean, it's kind of hard to find that balance.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
That's when you have to have a calendar and pass it out to the community. One Wednesday night.
I agree. Like, consistency is
And that
key.
way they have the whole month what we're doing.
Mhm.
Well, I agree with what you said. I'd say once a month, start it out like once a month or something, or if you don't get the flyers out, try it once that month.
We can make a little banner hang under the new sign up
Hey.
here, that says Friday night movie night.
Let's make it.
Yeah.
Let's make it.
They can
I'm
see
all
it.
for it.
You gotta,
But there's a challenge.
Yeah.
And it's the age-old challenge.
there's a
Somebody's got to run it.
Yep.
There's a policy going on now with everything, when these kids come in, so many of them have cell phones, when they start activity, they have to put their cell phones in a box. First thing
They
they have
can't
to do
have
is
cell
put the
phones when
cell
they're
phones
here.
out of their hands over
I agree
here.
with that.
And
Well, thankfully, the bad signal solves most of that for us.
And even dedication.
And if you're in a big metal building, we're good.
Dedication means
you can't even go into a convenience store and buy gasoline now.
But I can't, you know what the problem is though, is little Johnny's mom may want to call and she wants that lifeline to her kid.
Well, then she only calls the person that
I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be okay with that.
Yeah.
For you to take my kid's phone away, if I trust them enough to have it, they better not get it out and play with it.
they can turn it off.
Well, you wouldn't want to have it off, if I need to get.
And this,
They play games all the time.
Yeah.
this right here
The parents
is a
need to be
generational
able-
gap.
Yeah, but see, the parents need to be able to contact one phone number on that calendar.
I agree, but why when you have, and I'm not saying like she's right and you're wrong, or you're right and she's wrong. What I'm saying is this right here
Right.
is a generational gap, because
We don't
I,
have children, y'all do, that's why.
you don't have children in this age, and when you went out, you didn't really have a contact. You had to find a payphone, and you know, you had to trust, you know, your kids and society around.
Even in
But for
school,
us-
even in school, the teachers made you turn your phones off.
Yeah, but we're not at school.
Turn the phones off. They didn't mute it, they turned it off.
Yeah.
My
But
granddaughter
nowadays-
doesn't turn her phone off at school. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they don't do
And-
that now, but they did when I was in
And
school.
so, here we are. And that little back and forth right there, and it is what it is. Think about that from an outsider's perspective. Hey, we want your kids to come to church and to this event that we're having, but you got to turn off your cell phone. What?
Children, not parents.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your children have to turn off the cell phone,
Children are too busy
right?
playing games all
Oh,
day.
they're a cult. We're not going to that. We have to think about these things,
Right.
right? What are some subtle biases that we have that may prevent us? Because it's little. We don't know these people,
Right.
right? Little things really set the mood, so to speak, right? We were searching for a gymnastics class for Victoria before she started dance and all this stuff. One of the places went to, highly recommended gymnastics place in Noonan. And they said, hey, you're welcome to come. We'd love to have her. This is our hours. And we was like, okay, how can we see her? And they're like, oh no, she goes in this room and you can't see her until she's done. And I was like, what? I was like, where's the windows? No windows. And I was like,
Always have access.
that's creepy.
Yeah.
And so we went to another dance studio. Not as highly recommended, but at least they had a camera set up. I get it, right? They didn't want distraction from the parents during the class. Totally understand that. We've been since then to other dance. They actually have one-way mirrors, so that way that you can see the kids, but the kids don't get distracted. I get that. But this was like a black box, and I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know what you're doing to my kids. And we have to have that same mentality here.
Right,
Everything that we do.
Everything has to be transparent.
Everything. Even more transparent than what you may think is reasonable, right?
This whole thing, growing up when I started out, 15, 16 years old, if I went over to visit a girl's house, visit a girl at her house with her parents, and before we had, well, he needs to come to church with us.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you better believe I was gonna be there at church.
Yeah.
But Brian, you gotta realize what we grew up in is not
I
relevant to
know
what's
it's
going on
irrelevant.
today.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I used to go, that was the problem, I didn't go for the right reasons, but I went to be girls that I wanted to date.
Yeah,
You know, and that sort of thing is not
I get it.
out there now.
When you gamify things, people play the game instead of doing it for the right reasons. And that's kind of why
Be a motivating reason.
we just need to realize what we're setting up. Okay? And to come back to the bus example, when we say, oh, we're glorified, babysitters, right? And that's not what we want. I mean, we're happy to have the kids. Don't get me wrong. And we're happy to have that opportunity.
They got a mind.
But it's hard to develop a deep relationship. And so, but then we set ourselves up for failure, be like, oh, well, we'll pick up your kids. You don't have to worry about anything. Well, we do want the parents to have some involvement, right? And if, I get it, right? Maybe we will lose out on some kids, right? Frankly, you're going to lose, but the kids that you do get will have somewhat motivated parents. And then I would argue you would have a higher rate of success and deeper relationship with those parents because, like, say we're planning a basketball game. Not only would we have to, facilitate the basketball game, right? Have refs and coaches and safety equipment and all that stuff.
Drinks and
You
snacks.
also need to have people talking, communicating, getting to know these parents that are maybe sitting there, buying a snack or whatever. That's something we leave out a lot of times. But that's the main reason, right?
When you out here,
All right, Brian, then Tiffany.
when you got children, everybody's looking for a true friend. And when you get that friend to come, David does, he had his friend come in, and after he started, he like, friend wants to be in here.
Yeah.
He gets started, he sees it's okay, he's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
If you can count 5 true friends on your hand right now, you're in good standing.
Mm-hmm.
5 true friends. You can count on your finger. Who's this my friend? That's my friend. That's my friend. Kids are looking for friends
there are, network benefits, right? Not only can we show them the love of Christ, but they can get to meet people that have similar interests. They can, ultimately, right, bring them to Christ, but also, like, here are people that you can share your burden with, right? Because life is hard, right? But people are very timid or don't want to share this burden because everybody's in it for something. Like, is it a scam? Like, I don't know you. But as we get past that, right, if we can break down that barrier and make people comfortable, then they're more open to receive the love of Christ and to share their burdens, honestly. Tiffany.
Alright, so two things. First of all, I wouldn't like knocking you down, but if we're doing our jobs right, they're not gonna wanna touch their cell phones. If we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, what we brought them there for, they're gonna be so in, like Leanna goes to theater, she has her phone. The only time I hear from her is whenever they're on their water break. Because she's involved, she's excited about what she's doing, she doesn't care about the cell phone in her pocket, unless I call her, right? And Tori's the same way, Mitchell would probably be the one.
Mitchell's going to play on his phone.
But Mitchell would also be
That
the
boy.
one that's like, I don't wanna do this to begin with, right? So, but if we're doing our job right, they would pay attention. But the second thing is, if we do get these kids in, and we do have the parents that are, we inviting the parents and they're getting involved with their kids, you still have the concern or the problem, how do you make those children whose parents are not involved in their lives, whose parents are not supportive of them, who are using us just as a babysitting service? How do we make those children not feel odd?
Well, and that's something, like, we have to realize in anything, like, we can't get 100% participation, like, even from the parents. So we do have to consider those things. Okay, that's not our best case scenario. We're moving down the list. What can we do? And that's where the communication comes in. That's where, oh, we got an awards night. Oh, this is parents' night. Oh, or, even more personalized, give them a phone call or send them a video. Oh, man, parents love seeing videos of the kids. Hey, I took this video of your kid making a goal. Can I text it to you? Boom. Right? That's something.
That's good.
Right? You're starting that conversation. Hey, man, I thought you'd really like to see this. Your kid did this awesome move or whatever. Right? That's a starting point. Right? And then hopefully, right, we're trying to get people involved. Now, I get it. Like, we also have to understand people have lives. I mean, there are things that are going on that we don't fully understand. And there may be a reason why maybe this single parent is working 2 jobs. They send them over here while, Uncle Bob comes over he'll be at home when she gets out of basketball practice, right? And I've seen this thing, right? And they may want to be here and they just can't because they're trying to hold it all together. Or they've taken care of their ill mom, right? So we also, part of that is we don't need to make any assumptions, right? And we've talked about that before. No assumptions about what's going on until they tell us.
And there's so many children that their parents can't afford to send their kids to cheerleading
Again,
classes or football, soccer.
something else you need to think about.
So you can have a class on a dance program for the girls.
How do
or
we
boys.
handle people who couldn't afford it?
A shop, something for the kids to make stuff. the
Because
boys.
when we do soccer, it's like $120 for the season, right? And that includes jerseys and stuff. What if they ain't got $120?
Right.
I mean, for me, yeah, I can do that.
See, a lot of the schools
But-
today, they don't teach the children anything anymore on how to learn to do things other than, math and
Mhm,
stuff. I mean, learn how to build something, learn how to dance, learn how to cook,
And-
learn how to do stuff.
And
I mean,
there's tons of stuff we could do. And either you come up with low-cost activities to do,
Yeah.
or you got to figure out, maybe we talk with businesses and get sponsors or, to try to offset the cost, for us, or we just pay for it, right?
set up a little
But we need to think about those things.
Teach them how to,
Or, you could have, hey, if you can't afford it, we do a work day, every so often and, try to offer a way to earn some money. There's all kinds of ways. The point is, we have to consider it, right? Because the first thing, man, I'd really like my son to go, but you know, I can't pay the gas bill this month, let alone, you know, this,
What they
Don't
do
get
in
'em.
the schools
right?
now.
I mean, you gotta have gas, I mean,
Wait a minute.
otherwise you can't cook.
You've got all this stuff going on, you got people going around selling candy and all that kind of stuff, having car washes to be able to have something that they wanna do. That gives them more of an incentive to wanna do it than anything. If they really wanna participate in that thing, they'll go ahead.
And I understand, and I did those things.
What you're saying, getting up something to do, say you do get a basketball game, dodgeball, basketball, something like that. This is dodgeball night, that's basketball night.
Mm-hmm.
Have we
People
talked-
like me, when I was a parent, if my kids had something going on, boy, you got to break your neck to get there on time. If you're a working person, and you'll do it
Hey.
because it's for that kid.
I understand, and I'll do it too, but there's a limit, right? I've got multiple kids, and you've got
Yeah.
this kid on this night, this kid on, I mean,
And they're in
I would love to do everything. Unfortunately, there's only 24 hours in a day.
Not everybody.
I'm working 8, I'm sleeping hopefully 6, right?
There's only
I mean,
one
you do the
place.
math, right?
That's why you only limit so much, you can't fill the whole calendar up with
Yeah,
kids.
so,
It's gotta be limited. of what
so we're coming up with ideas, right? We're thinking about, you know, what makes us special in this community, right? Okay? We're a group of committed, loving people, right? We're warm-hearted. We have a goal to reach this community for Christ. That's a unique point of us, like universal salvation, right? Come to know Christ. We also have this huge building out back, right? That has, I don't know, space for at least a basketball court. It's a pretty big little area out here. So how do we get this out? Now, we talked about basketball. I like the cooking idea. That's cool. I don't know how we would do that, but, you know, maybe we can whip up something. We've got classrooms. So we talked about hosting some adult classes, divorce, grief. You know. Okay, we would have to take some training to be able to do that effectively. There's some Christian counseling classes, drug addiction classes. I know there's been some talk of, you know, perhaps using, having like AA meetings here, you know, whatever. I'm all for it. That's a starting point. And then, okay, let's think about even outside the box. How do we even initially contact these people? What are things that we can do outside of this property line? Right? And this is where we like break down. We're like, I don't know. What can we do?
Well, you know, we have the church website, but that's.
Okay, we got a website.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, we
And
have a
people
website.
do see that.
That's signed now.
People review that. We got a sign. Good. But what are some things that we can do outside? Because some people just not going to step over the line.
And you
Right.
can't keep sending flyers to everybody.
Flyers, I mean, they have a response rate, but it's not great. Some people just have this I don't want to call it, what's the name for it? Just stigma against church, like, no, I'm not going there. I'm not seeing it, I don't want to see it, whatever. What can we do? What are some other events in the community that we can maybe, you know, meet with people, start that conversation, and once people have a face to associate with, and you're not just like anonymous church, they'd be like, oh yeah, well, you know, I'd be willing to go see that. You know, we're having a basketball night. How do we reach these people? And I can think of in Coweta County, right? I know I've seen Wayne Jenkins, our associational missionary. He had a booth at the fair, the county fair. There's like 100,000 people that come through that fair. And he's got a booth on the main drag. Give it to Wayne, because he's out there working it. And I've seen him do it. I mean, that's random people that we're never going to see, but he's making contact with them. And then his job is to point them to a church, right? But we could do that. There's nothing saying that we could. Now, we are in this area. What's going on? Or is there something we can do outside of these church walls, outside of this church property line, to maybe meet people, greet people, interact with people in a way that they wouldn't ever show up here? Can we think of anything like that?
The only thing to do is bring the food. Everybody
Bring them the
wants
food. See, you've been a Baptist too long. You've been hanging out with the Baptists too long. I guarantee you there are things other than food. I can't think of anything, but you know, I've been a Baptist too long.
Go to where there's food.
I had a. Oh, yeah, Brian.
Student events and all like that, one thing people have taken into consideration when having sports and all is the liability of people are looking at who's gonna pay this if something happens to this child.
Mm-hmm.
And schools and all are exempted from business like that. And
So-
even public places, when you go to these parks up here, you know, somebody gets hurt out there on the thing, that's it, your child, not a, when you get on private property, it is a responsibility, and that's what they look at a lot of times. I was listening to it across, somebody got hurt.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't consider.
You don't want anybody to get hurt, but then they go to where.
We don't want anybody to get hurt, right? That's not our goal. But at the same time, and I said it last week, if you want to be safe, Christianity isn't for you, right? At some point, we have to interact with people, and anytime you do it, I don't care if you're shaking their hand, right? There is a liability there, and we can scare ourselves to not do anything, and we will not be effective. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't try to cover our bases, but just existing, right? Just existing, we have a risk, right? We've seen that happen in society. Now, you mentioned schools. There are after-school activities that churches run. I know in Coweta County, there's one called the Good News Club.
Rehoboth does it once a month.
Rehoboth, I think theirs is like Big Dog Club or
Something.
Big Dog Power Club or something.
Kids went till 6 or 7.
So they're interacting
It's after school.
with parents.
But they only do it on Monday,
They only do it once a month.
not once a week.
Okay.
I think they might have cut back.
I
Okay.
think they call it the Bulldog.
But-
Bulldog Club,
but
yeah,
the
Bulldog
school-
Power Club, I think it
The
was
school
called.
requires you to bring a bus and pick the kids up, even though the church is right across the street. It will not allow the kids to go across the street.
Again, liability.
Across the highway.
Liability.
Well, I know, liability. You gotta go get them and bring them to the
So,
church.
but that's something, right? They are doing something to interact with kids that they would never, probably ever, have another way of interacting. So school programs, the church could get involved in something like that. Little fairs, little, fall festivals. Maybe, now hear me out before you throw your tomatoes. Maybe we do something set up outside of this church for fall festival. Still have a fall festival, but maybe rent out this little park up here or something. Because we would attract a whole different set of people.
And you know what?
Just throwing it out there.
I'm just going by what Rehoboth does.
Mhm.
They actually have members who own a lot of land. They'll have bonfires, they'll have, a little concession stand on wheels, popcorn, that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
they go there and they have music and they have a big bonfire. And any of the people in the church can go, and their
Okay.
friends. But somebody that owns the property.
Yeah. And they have to be willing to do that.
Yeah, they
But,
would.
I mean, that's a low-key way of inviting people, because then you can invite your friends. Hey, me and my friends, we're just having a hangout, a bonfire. It's something I would love to do. I thought about it, except for the fact I'm crazy busy, honestly. Like, but I would love, that's cool. Like, let's have a hangout. That's cool. Have the kids play badminton or something. Adults sit around, do whatever adults do. And, just have a good time.
Have games for the kids.
That's fine. That's cool. So, in this lesson, relationships first. And that's what we need to think about. How can we even build these relationships to even start the conversation? Because it's like we put the cart before the horse, right? We go to invitation, but they're not there yet. They're just not there yet. And even Jesus, right? Oh, the other statistic, this just came to me. The other surprising statistic that he mentioned in the book, which was surprising to me, was they surveyed the top churches in, like, large churches. And I want to say a large church in this context was like 250 members and up. and they surveyed the new, I guess, members. They said it took 87 Christians per person before somebody made a decision for Christ. 87. Now, why do you think that is? Because that to me was like a shockingly high number, right?
Take that many people.
87. That's according to the statistics that is in his book. 87 Christians before somebody would come to Christ. Now, to me, that seems a little high, right? Because,
It just tells me that the devil's working overtime.
well, it tells me that people don't have relationships. Is what it tells me. Because, like, if you've got 4 good friends, it seems to me like they would have a lot of influence. But if you have 87 people, it means it's almost like 80 of them are strangers, right? Maybe you got a tract, maybe you got a flyer. Now, I don't know what the measurement was. Maybe somebody had a bullhorn out on the corner, because we know how effective those are, right? But that counts. But then you had one good friend that talked to him. We need to be better at creating relationships with strangers. And then they won't be a stranger anymore.
We've got
Right?
subdivisions out there, people.
And I get it.
You got room to park a car in a driveway, you got 2 houses sitting right here side by side. This neighbor don't know that neighbor.
Hey, before we say that,
Whoa.
how many of us know every person that lives on these houses just right here?
Yeah, I know a lot of them. I let them be known, you know.
I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that. You tell me, right? We need to be able to know these people's names and their stories.
Next lady up here, the one in the corner, the other guy.
And that's, I mean, I'm about to cry, honestly, because that's condemning right there. We've been here for how many years? 102, what, 18?
Here.
It's a lot. Think about it. All right. You get what I'm saying. Relationships. Think about, and guys, we're part of the inner circle here. I hate to be like that, but we're part of the inner circle. You have influence in this church. And as this comes online, you have ideas. You're here. You're spending the time. Think about it. Because it may be, like this cooking idea, I never would have thought of that. I think it's great. Man, I could throw, we need 50 pounds of flour? I'll go to Sam's today.
Yeah.
$10? Psh,
Hey,
done.
this church in the 1970s had no people in it. We got a guy over here that air traffic control that used a lot of this money. They had hay riders, wagons, mules out there. They had parties, they had everything. They had
Mhm.
games people could play. This church went to went to skating rinks. They took kids to skating rinks. We opened up a empty bus. You couldn't get more people in it than you sit on top of one of them.
Mhm.
Everybody wanted to go to that skate. Everybody wanted to go to the Grand Park Zoo.
Yeah.
The community was going, and all of a sudden, they got these people out, and everything went started back down. The growth of the church.
God can work a miracle. And we're here right now for some reason, right? So, we are God's hands and feet on this earth. He's left it up to us. And when we get to heaven, I want to hear, good job, good and faithful servant. I don't want to hear, hey, Clint, what are the names of the 5 houses up the street?
Come on, we'll
Man.
no benediction.
That's not going to be fun. Yeah, we're going to get to know him, for sure.
This guy, what he's all about, let's go.
And I get it, right? It's hard. You don't know these people. They're weird, right? I get it. But think about it. All right. Well, let's close in prayer. We got a service coming up. So, Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together and study your word. Thank you for the lesson from Gary on reaching our culture, the differences of it, and let our hearts open to the different challenges that different people face as we try to reach them, to expand your kingdom, Father, to show them the glory and your love and mercy and all the blessings that you have for them. Father, Father, I pray that you'll open our hearts and let us to think about creative new ideas to reach these people and be good stewards of the things that you've given us. I pray that you'll bring us all back next week safely and